Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is another Monday. At least the weather's nice. Mondays are never that great for me. You know, my best time of the week, obviously, are on the weekends when I'm at home with my family, just kind of being able to do whatever I want to do. So obviously, going back to work at the beginning of the week where I am forced to do things that do not necessarily fuel my heart, so to speak, is a little bit of a challenge. And plus, you know, just having to wake up to an alarm is kind of like, oh man. But hey, it is what it is. Could be worse. I could not have an alarm to wake up to. I could not have a house to sleep in that can hold an alarm. I could not have a job or a house. So with that, referring back to having that attitude of gratitude, it is what it is. I would rather have a job and rather have a career and need to wake up to an alarm than I would rather not have a job and not be able to support myself and my family and maintain the lifestyle that I was meant to live. Okay? But anyway, enough said about that. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Mine was good. Nothing special happened on the home front in terms of Kratom. Still didn't take any Kratom this weekend, so I guess I'm actually coming up on, is it 4 weeks? Oh, maybe 4 weeks. Yeah, about 4 weeks. Damn, I need to do the math better before I will say this, man. I'm getting to that point. If there's one thing that I have learned about myself during this process, is that the first week, the first 2 weeks, not taking Kratom, not all that bad. You know, you're sprinting. You know, you can do the sprint. But there's a reason that when you're running a marathon that you don't start out in a full-on sprint. You know, when you see people run a marathon, they don't start out like, you know, there's a reason for that, right? You gotta save your energy. You know, you gotta maintain throughout the long haul, right? And I have found that once I crest past that 2 weeks and I'm working on that third week, and then especially after passing the third week and starting to work on the fourth week, that pig really starts to squeal with me, right? And I had multiple times this past weekend, I had multiple times where I was just like, oh my God, bro. My God, just trying to get through the moments, you know. Definitely, just to be completely transparent, was struggling pretty badly this weekend with some cravings. And oh, you've done really well, you've gone 4 weeks without it, you know. Come on, man, just a little taste, you know, that sort of thing, to a point where I had to lace up my running shoes, and I did a little video on it this weekend just to kind of document my having gone through that and kind of how I personally go about trying to overcome those cravings and overwork or outwork those cravings. Because I've found that when I start having cravings and that pig or that addiction starts to squeal and it starts calling me back and it's in my ear, you know, doing all that, I find that when it gets to that point, I have to sometimes just beat the addiction out of me, you know, beat the craving right out of me. Because if you're running, or if you're really pushing yourself physically, or if you're doing a whole bunch of push-ups, a whole bunch of curls, or I'm running, you know, 4 miles out in the warm sun, you know, if you start doing stuff like that, those cravings have way less of a vengeance about them, way less of an aggression about them, okay? And the pig, as we talk about, that gets in your ear and does all the, you know, he sounds way more tired, you know, way more lethargic, like he just doesn't have the energy to really give you shit about it, you know, about taking and using. So that's why I posted that video this weekend. You know, use that. Look at that video and consider why I did that video. You know, did I do that video just to, you know, brag that I'm an in-shape guy and this is what I do on the weekends, you know, while all of you lazy ass lethargic fucks are sitting at home on top of your hands and just watching TV? No, that's not why I did that video to illustrate to you and show you this is what I do when the cravings really start to hit and when I find myself really struggling on the weekends. And when you start to have those cravings, if your response to that is to, well, you know, let me sit down and just watch some TV, you know, and let me sit down and watch some TV and focus on something else, and that'll kind of help get my focus off of using Kratom, and then, you know, the craving will just pass in a little while. That may work sometimes, but eventually it's going to circle back around. It's going to bite you in the ass, okay? Because idle hands are the devil's playground, and that is absolutely a true thing. You need to have your hands engaged in something. Whether you sit down and do music, work on some sort of project, create something, build something, go out there and really push yourself physically into some sort of capacity in exercising, you know, some intense like cardio type workout, because I'm telling you, about 2 miles into a jog on hills on a Saturday afternoon out in the hot sun, you ain't thinking about no damn Kratom. I can tell you that for sure, okay? And that's why I did that. And you know, that helped me get through probably a good like 2 or 3 hour period throughout my day on Saturday, where I was, you know, just really thinking about it, you know, I was having that whole talk with myself of, oh, dude, you've done really well. You know, you haven't taken it in a month, bro. Go ahead. Come on, man. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. You know, but you know how that goes. If you're a person that tends to have an addiction, especially to opiate-like substances, you know that one time can turn into 2 times, and then the 2 into 3, 3 into 4, 4 to 5, so forth and so on. We know this, right? And that's what I don't want to happen, which is why I did the exercise, which is why I made the video. You know, the rest of the day I went out and did some shopping. You know, Saturday is our day to go grocery shopping, so did that on Saturday. That filled a pretty large portion out of my day, so that helped, you know, to kind of keep me focused on that. Saturday night, I tried to watch the the Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury boxing match. And I just want to say this, you know, you guys know me. I'm really a big fan of combat sports, really big into UFC, MMA, and I don't watch a lot of boxing these days, not so much these days, but it's because, you know, the huge fights only come around every so often. If it's a really big one, you know, in the UFC, they are really good about pairing up the best fighters in the world against the best fighters in the world. In the UFC, you get to see that pretty often. So when throughout the UFC, you might have 7, 8, 9, 10 fights in a given year that are considered like really big fights, really massive fights, right? And boxing, you know, they're too greedy. over in boxing. They can't get their money right, and it's going out of business sale every time one of those guys does a boxing match. So you might only see the best against the best and a really good top-notch, top-level boxing match. You might only see one of those once a year if you're lucky. Sometimes not even that much. So for that, I don't really keep up with boxing that much. But you guys know I love combat sports, and so I admit it. I freely admit I get sucked into the whole, YouTubers versus MMA fighters. I've watched all the Jake Pauls against the Ben Askrens and the Tyron Woodleys and, the Tommy Furies against the KSIs. Oh, God, that's one I'm so ashamed that I watched it. It was absolutely deplorable. Such a horrible boxing match. And really, that last one, that and the Logan Paul Dylan Dennis fight, I got that a couple weekends ago. Dylan Dennis took my effing money. That bastard took my money, talked so much shit about Logan Paul's girlfriend. I mean, literally had me like, damn, I gotta watch this. As much shit as he has talked, I gotta see how this thing plays out. And then, of course, it was just a horrible, absolute, stinky boxing match where Dylan Dennis did absolutely nothing, maybe threw 10 punches the whole fight, and maybe one of them landed. And Logan Paul's a shit boxer, and it was just, it was one of those things where halfway through it, I was just like, really? I can't believe I paid for this. They got me again. These motherfuckers got me again. And because of that instance, I said to myself after that, I knew the Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou fight was coming up soon. I said to myself, I ain't buying that shit. Nope. Not doing any more of the sideshow boxing matches for a while. Again, my wife and I make good money, so it's one of those things where I splurge. That's kind of one of my guilty pleasures, and my wife's cool with that. She knows that I really love combat sports. She knows I like to get the UFC pay-per-views, some of these sideshow YouTube star versus MMA pay-per-views. She never gives me shit about that. She's always cool with me doing it. But I had to talk with myself after that Logan Paul, Dylan Dennis, KSI Fury bullshit a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. After paying for that, and it was such a shit show, I was like, you know what? Not doing it, man. I'm not doing it. They are not getting me again on that Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou shit. They're not going to get me. I was like, you know what? I'll talk to my son and see if there's some way we can stream this. And listen, I'm not a promoter of streaming shit illegally. I'm telling you, you're looking at a guy who has not missed and who has paid for, I don't know how many pay-per-views. Literally, I get every UFC pay-per-view. Every one. And they're expensive as shit these days. They've risen in price just like everything else has in the nation. They're like $80 for a freaking pay-per-view event. I still pay for it. I still get them. I'm always honest in that way. They've always had my money in that way. I'm one of the biggest supporters of it. I've paid for several of the Jake Paul events. I love watching stuff like that. I'm a huge fan of combat sports. It doesn't even have to be the best, most talented, most skilled combat athletes. It doesn't even have to be that. It can be a YouTuber turned boxer who's not necessarily the highest level of skill, but talks a lot of shit, sells a good fight, talks a good game. Cool. I know it's probably not going to be the best thing. It'll still be fun to watch. Here's my money. And I've always done that. Was not going to do it with the Tyson Fury Ngannou fight because I'd bought, a couple of pay-per-views already. One UFC, which ended up being shitty because they switched out a couple of the fights on the main card. The Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev, that one. I ended up paying for that, and then that ended up, Islam ended up sleeping Volkanovski in the first round, and, and it's just I paid for that one, paid for the Dylan Dennis, Logan Paul one like a dumbass, so I had paid for those two recently, and I was like, I'm not paying for this shit, I'm not paying for this shit. So my son was like, you know what, they got channels on TikTok where you can actually go and watch those. And he figured out a way where he could mirror what was on his phone with our television. He downloaded an app where he could do that. I was like, cool, yeah, we'll just watch it that way. So, don't tell anybody. So it was kind of sneaky, but I watched at least a portion of that fight on TikTok, even though I didn't pay for it. All right. But then it got to, I think, the end of the third round, right after when Francis Ngannou knocked down Tyson Fury. Right after that happened, all of a sudden the stream went dead. The stream went blank, and I was like, "Oh, what happened? What happened?" You know, my son was like, "Well, it's illegal to stream, so they probably found it. TikTok probably found it, and they probably banned it, right?" So I saw like the first 2 or 3 rounds, the first 3 rounds, because I did see it up until the point where there was the knockdown. And then I think at the end of that round is when the stream got pulled. And so I didn't see like rounds 4 through 10. And from there, I just watched like Michael Bisping's Fight Companion, where he's watching the fight and kind of commentating it play by play as it happens, but he's not showing you the fight, you know. I don't know if any of you have watched those, but he's kind of telling you what's happening as it's happening, sort of thing. So I just watched that for the rest of the time on Saturday. So that, you know, took up somewhat of my time. But I just want to say, man, you know, they gave that fight to Tyson Fury, and a lot of people think that Francis Ngannou won that fight. Francis Ngannou is the former UFC heavyweight champion, has never been in a boxing match in his whole life, okay? This is his first boxing match, and he goes up against an undefeated, the current heavyweight boxing champion, and he looked better than Tyson Fury. So, they still gave it to Tyson, but it's one of those things where it made me lose a lot of respect for boxing. Not only did a guy who's never had a boxing match came in and had a very, very close split decision loss, very, very close fight with the heavyweight champion, but then on top of that, when a lot of people thought that Francis Ngannou won the fight, one of the judges scored it 96-93 for Tyson Fury. There is no reason whatsoever that scorecard should have been a 96-93 Tyson Fury when Francis Ngannou is the only one that got a knockdown. So he had a 10-8 round in the third round where he knocked down Tyson Fury. So with that, there's no way it should be a 96-93. Boxing is corrupt. There was no way in hell that they were going to give that decision to Francis Ngannou. It would have completely ruined the sport of boxing for a guy coming from an outside MMA organization and has never had a professional boxing match to come in and beat the longtime reigning world heavyweight boxing champion, who is still in his prime. Okay? There was no way they were going to let that happen, and they didn't. They didn't. Hence the 96-93 scorecard. One of the guys gave it 96-93. The other 2 judges had it 94-95. And one of them had it 94-95 for Ngannou. So one judge actually scored the fight for Ngannou. And then you had another judge who scored it 96-93 Fury, when Fury was the one that got knocked down in the fight. But that's why I didn't order the fight. But I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest with you, that I didn't order it, because it sounds like it was actually a really good fight. And this one turned out to be one that was actually competitive. Everybody had Tyson Fury as a heavy favorite in that fight. Francis Ngannou was a major, major underdog. No one thought that he had any chance whatsoever in that fight. Proved everyone wrong, just like he has all of his life. And if you've never learned about this guy, you need to go watch some documentaries on Francis Ngannou. This guy grew up in Cameroon, in a poor part of Africa, digging ditches for a living. And he was in his mid-20s before he decided, I want to go be the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Nobody knew how he was going to do it. He had to escape civil persecution in his own family. He was tracked down, hunted down, sent back to his country multiple times before he finally escaped and made it to Europe. And then from there, he began to train at an MMA gym. And then he ended up fighting for the UFC, becoming the UFC heavyweight champion. And now going up against the heavyweight boxing champion in Tyson Fury. Just this guy's background is just absolutely stunning and amazing. And it's definitely one of those made-for-TV movies in the making right now. So I can't wait to see that movie come out. But I gotta go. I've been rambling for about 20 minutes. I'm kind of making it short today. But hey, the video that you guys saw that I did this weekend, that was real. That was a real moment. When I get to this point where I'm like a month out, that pig really starts to... I mean, it really starts double timing it with me. So I had to take some drastic measures this weekend to keep from using the Kratom. Oh man, hopefully that continues to work for me, because I'm, having trouble at this point discerning, not discerning, but I'm having trouble really justifying what are my reasons for staying off. My mood is so much better. I have so much more motivation and drive and that sort of thing when I'm on the Kratom. I don't want to go to the doctor and get them to, give me something for energy or something like Adderall or something. I'd rather take Kratom than go back to like an amphetamine or something like that. And, I've tried the over-the-counter sort of, items that supposedly, give you energy, like just the Alpha Brain and these different supposedly natural supplements that can help with like motivation, drive, energy, stuff like that. And I just, I haven't had any luck with any of them. So, I'm at a point where I'm having a tough time justifying not going back to the Kratom. I freely admit that. For all the reasons that I just mentioned. But for right now, I'm holding off. For right now, still haven't used it. Did take a couple of drinks on Saturday night, but I'm the type of person that never had trouble controlling that, per se. But, the NA and the AA community would, if they heard me say that, they'd be like, oh, no, man, slippery slope, bruh. Slippery slope. That clouds your judgment. You get drunk or inebriated, you're going to have a higher chance of going back and using Kratom again, and then you know what that means. You know what road that leads you down. I mean, they're probably not wrong, but I've always said, I don't know if I'll ever live a 100% completely abstinent lifestyle. I don't know if I'll ever do that. Maybe that's just idiocy by me. Could be, but it's my idiocy. So it's a free country. I have the right to be an idiot if I want. Gosh darn it. But anyway, all right, I gotta go. Love you guys. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also leave a comment. Let me know, what your story is. I will absolutely read your comment on here, and I will discuss it. Actually, I do have one comment to read before I get off. At Johnny Just Right 4253 says, and this comment was from a week or two ago. I apologize I didn't get to it sooner, but he said, anxiety and booze got the best of me, bro. After like a month clean, I did some shots for like 3 days and some caps for a few. Back on a taper, taking 5 caps 3 times a day. Going to stick with it this time. Thanks, dog. Johnny Just Right, thank you, bro. And you know what? Listen here, man. Listen here. There's no judgment. Absolutely no judgment. People who have had trouble with addiction have been on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. So many different times in their lives. There's nobody here with any room or space to hold you to any different, regard than what we hold ourselves to. And what I will say to you is, they call it the past for a reason, because it is gone, it is done, you have passed it, it is in your rear view mirror. So with that said, don't look at that, don't focus on that. Focus on your future. Focus on what's ahead. And it's never too late. And you've already said here that you're back on your taper. So do that. Stick with it. Get better every day. Be better on Tuesday than you were on Monday. Better on Wednesday than you were on Tuesday. And that's all that you can ask of yourself. That's all that anyone else can ask of you. Because one thing nobody can ask of you is perfection, my man. Perfection. No one can ask that of you. And we're all human. And we all fall short when it comes to that. Okay? So, don't beat yourself up about it. It is what it is. You had a human moment, just like we all have, and so no judgment, my man. At least you recognize where you went wrong, where you went left when you should have went right, where you zigged when you should have zagged. You know what I mean? And that's all that's important. As long as you realize that and you're able to steer the car back on the correct side of the road, no one can ask any more of you, my man. So anyway, I appreciate that comment. And, just the fact that you're willing to get on here and say it, and admit it and put it out there into the internet and into the ethosphere. I mean, that shows that you're on the right track, man. You got the right mindset about it, admitting it, being accountable for it, because if you're not accountable for it, then what? I've always said, if you ain't got shit to fix, then it's pretty likely you're not going to be fixing it. You know what I mean? So that's what I always say. The first step in fixing anything, any weakness or frailty in your life, is first admitting that it was a mistake or it was wrong, or that there's a way that you could do it better, right? And so you're taking that first step, man. The rest is just remaining disciplined and sticking with it. And you know what to do, my man. You're a smart guy. You're a smart guy. I've had a lot of interactions with you on here. You know what's up. You know what's up. And we're here for support, dude. You guys have been here to support me. I'm here to support you. That's what this is. So anyway, gotta go. Love you guys. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I will see you tomorrow. All right. Peace out, guys.